What's going on, guys? FadeitLuie here, bringing you guys a brand new video. We're going to be doing a mid-taper on my boy, so stay tuned. When doing the taper, I always start off at the back side so I can warm myself up. It's kind of like stretching before you work out. If you end up doing the side taper first, you could take one of them higher than the other. We are balding him out with our T outliners. We are not going to use the shaver because he does bump up. Now that we're done balding him out and creating our first guideline, we can move on to the Masters midway open and create our second guideline. Having the lever midway on Masters is equivalent to a no guard all the way open on the walls and ergos. If you were to open the lever all the way to its last notch, it would be equivalent to a one guard all the way closed. We're then going to slightly close the lever all the way closed and then blend out that initial guideline. Now that we're done blending out our initial guideline, we can move on to the one guard midway open and create our third guideline. Remember, we're going to use the lever to soften up the line and get it ready for the zero guard. Now that we're done softening up the line with the one guard, we can move on to the zero guard and erase the line completely. Don't forget to use your opposite hands to stretch the skin just so you can have more space to blend. Here I'm using the lever all the way open on this last notch, which is equivalent to a one guard just to detail. I hope you guys are enjoying the video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Now we're using our two guard all the way open to create our fourth guideline. Remember to use the comb to feed the hair into the clipper when needed. We're softening up the line with the two guard and the lever just so we can move on to our one guard all the way open. Now that we're done softening up the line with the two guard, we can move on to the one guard all the way open and erase the line completely. Before we move on to our clipper over comb method, we're going to soften up the line with the three guard. Now that we're done softening up the line, we can move on to our clipper over comb method and make the fade as smooth as possible. When the cutting blade is horizontal, I'm debulking, and when the cutting blade is going vertical, I'm blending. You always want to make sure the taper is nice and smooth on the edge so when you line it up, it doesn't make it difficult for you. Now that we're done with the back taper, we can move on to the side taper and create our first guideline. Now that we're done bottoming him out and we already have our NST outliners out, we're going to move on to his neckline and start off at the bottom, working our way to the top arch. Remember to go slow and make sure the hair feeds into the trimmer. This part you always want to comb down and re-edge just to make sure it's very sharp. Moving back over to the side taper, we're moving on to our no guard all the way open and creating our second guideline. We're then going to use the lever to remove the initial guideline. Now that we're done erasing our initial guideline, we can move on to the one guard all the way open and create our third guideline. Before we move on to our zero guard, we're going to debook with our two guard all the way open first, then move on to the zero guard. Now we're switching back over to the zero guard and we're removing the line between the one guard and the two guard. Now we're using our clipper of a comb to help us debulk and blend into the sides. Now that we're done blending in the side taper to the top, we can move on to our NST outliners and line up his C-cup. I always start off at the bottom arch and then work my way to the top. As you can see, I'm going slow enough that the hair feeds into the trimmer and makes a very harsh line. the taper because I saw a few lines that I needed to detail with my no guard all the way open. Before we line him up with our Annis T outliners, we're gonna hold up his hair with some hair clips and then debulk his hairline. The guard I'm using here is a 1 guard all the way open to debulk his hairline, and then we're gonna move on to our Annis T outliners and make them as crispy as possible. Here I started the hairline off in the middle and then I worked my way to the left side. Remember not to press too hard because you could bite the skin with the T-setter trimmer. And you also want to go slow enough that the hair feeds into the trimmer and cuts nicely. You also don't want to push anybody's vertical bars back because it would stand out. I hope you guys are enjoying the video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you. Also, if you leave a comment down below, I'm 100% gonna reply to it, so make sure you do. Here I'm using the foil shaver to remove the stubble on the sideburns. He does not like the shaver on the back of the neck because it does bump up. Now we're moving on to our Turkish Razor and Derby Premium blades, and we're going to make them as crispy as possible. Remember to always apply shave gel to lather the skin, and then also stretch the skin as much as possible while keeping the blade at a 45-degree angle. What's going on, guys? FadeitLuie here, bringing you guys a brand new video. We're going to be doing a mid-fade comb over, so stay tuned. We're starting off by saturating the hair and combing everything in place. This is so we could create a beautiful canvas. Now that our canvas is nice and clean, we can move on to our Annis T outliners and create our first guideline. We are contouring this guideline to this head shape so the fade could flow better. Now that we're done balding them out and creating our first guideline, we can move on to the no guard all the way open and create our second guideline. I am using my Annis Master, so when I say lever all the way open, I actually mean midway, which is equivalent to a no guard all the way open on the gammas or walls. Now that we're done setting in our second guideline, we can start to close the lever all the way and remove that initial guideline. Now that we're done erasing our initial guideline, we can move on to the one guard all the way open and create our third guideline. We're then going to use the lever to soften up this line and get it ready for the zero guard. Now that we're done softening up the line with the one guard, we can move on to the zero guard and erase the line completely. I hope you guys are enjoying the video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you. Moving on to our two guard all the way open, we're creating our fourth guideline and we're using the comb to feed the hair into the clipper. We're then going to soften up the line with the lever and then move on to the one guard all the way open. Since we're done softening up the line, we can move back to the one guard and erase the line completely. Now that we're done with our lower guards, we can move on to our clipper over comb method. When using clipper over comb, you want to make sure the hair is a little bit damp so it's easier to grab the hair with the comb. Also, when I'm cutting horizontally, I'm debulking, and when I'm cutting vertically, I'm blending. Moving on to my three guard all the way open, we're going to continue to debulk and flick out as much as we can. Moving on to the C cup, we're using our T outliners and we're starting off at the bottom and working our way to the top arch. You always want to make sure you go slow enough that the hair feeds into the trimmer, because if not, then it won't cut the hair properly. We're also going to line up his vertical bars and keep them as natural as possible. Moving on to the back side, we're starting off with our T outliners and we're creating our first guideline. Once we're done balding them out, we're going to move on to our no guard all the way open and create our second guideline. Remember to use the lever to soften up the initial guideline. Now that we're done erasing our initial guideline with the lever, we can move on to the one guard all the way open and create our third guideline. We are nearing the occipital bone, so you want to make sure you spend more time here in detail. Instead of using the 0 guard, I ended up going out to the last notch, which is equivalent to a 1 guard on the masters, and flicking out and using my corners as much as possible. Here I'm switching over to my 0 guard all the way open, and I'm using the corners to flick out and detail as much as possible. Now that we're done blending out the guideline near the occipital bone, we can move on to our clip roll comb method and debulk. Remember, my horizontal cuts are debulking and my vertical cuts are blending. Here I'm using the 3 guard all the way open, and I'm flicking out as much as possible. Now we're lining up the right side of his head. We're gonna move on to our NST outliners, and we're making sure the hair feeds into the trimmer. Now that we're done with the fading and lining them up, we can move on to the top and create our first guideline through the middle, working our way to the sides. You always want to make sure the hair is nice and damp so you can get the true length of the hair follicles. It's kind of like clipper over comb. You're grabbing the hair with the comb, feeding it into your fingers, and then cutting it with your shears. Again, I hope you guys are enjoying the video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you. Also, if you leave a comment down below, I'm 100% going to reply to it, so make sure you comment. Moving on to our Turkish razor and Derby Premium blades, we're going to make them as crispy as possible. But before we use the razor, we always apply some shave gel and then also stretch the skin as much as possible while keeping the blade at a 45-degree angle.